How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, could I just get you to describe to me just how big football is in Peru?
Well, it's the biggest sport in the country. Most South America loves football, but of course not all of it. There's Venezuela who likes baseball, but it's certainly a lot bigger here than it is in New Zealand because that's not to make an assumption. I'm just saying because rugby is deemed the bigger sport. That's how we see it over here.
Yeah. What do you know about New Zealand football?
I know quite a bit. I know more than most people here, most of the locals here. That's probably because I followed the A-League a little bit, but I'm aware of players like Chris Wood, Marco Rojas, who are ones who have to watch out for. Winston Reed is quite a good player. I'm also a fan of Michael Boxall, who impressed me in the Confederations Cup. And I've heard good things about Clayton Lewis upcoming. I saw him a bit in the Under-20 World Cup. I was impressed. Those are a few of the players I know. I'm not as aware as them as I am Australia, but I do know more than most of the locals here. So I've had quite a bit of a voice with some of the people who have asked me about how the team is like.
If Peru were to lose this home and away fixture to New Zealand, would a nation mourn? Would a nation cry?
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about it because we've been waiting 36 years, and with all due respect, but we've gotten the hardest parts out of the way. We've managed to avoid defeat to Argentina. We avoided defeat in the last match against Colombia, even if it was at home. We've struggled a bit against the stronger teams, but it's fair to say we've also struggled against the two weakest teams, Venezuela and Bolivia. So that's one thing that New Zealand might want to take into account. So we've had a bit of a few problems against those teams, but it's kind of weird. We've improved since the beginning of the qualifiers. We started off really poorly, but then after the Copa America Centenario, we've improved a lot. Although we still had our up and down form, so it's kind of a weird one. But this is definitely one match that the Peruvians don't want to lose. This is the biggest match in a long time in the nation, and it will be hard to take if we lose it. Again, all due respect, because New Zealand are a team that could very well beat us, but I think that the hardest part of the qualifiers, of Peru's qualifiers, is out of the way, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the sentiment from the general public there in Peru that, look, okay, we're not quite there, but boy, we're so pleased that we've got New Zealand and perhaps, not another country from around the world like Australia or somebody.
It's a mixed bag. Personally, myself, there would be no difference in playing Australia and New Zealand. I'm one to believe that Australia has a bit of a better players than New Zealand, but I don't think they're playing the greatest football right now, so it's kind of a mixed bag for me. As for the people here, the locals, it's also a mixed bag because some of the people that don't know much about football, like the non-football fans that are jumping on the bandwagon, or I guess you can cut that out, the people that aren't very happy or aren't much followers of football, they're saying that New Zealand is easy, they're going to win, Peru's going to win, while the people in the journalists, the ones that do know about football, say let's not get overconfident. New Zealand can very well beat us, so we gotta stay on foot.
Who are the stars of the Peruvian football team? Tell us a little bit about your side.
Okay, well, the star player. First of all, I just wanted to say we're more of a Chile under Sampaoli than a Argentina, for example, who kind of relies on Messi at moments. We're more of a unit than a player on. We play more as a team than to rely on individualism. Although that's not to say that we can lack depth sometimes, and that could hurt us. Our star player is Paulo Guerrero, who plays in Flamengo. He's been the star player for a long time. A lot of people over there, and Europe for that matter, always think Peru, Claudio Pizarro, but Pizarro's not going to be on the team. The call-ups were just yesterday. He wasn't called up. And Paulo Guerrero is definitely the best player. He's a leader. He's a strong player. He's the number 9. He's definitely the one that New Zealand want to watch out for the most. Christian Cueva, who plays in Sao Paulo. Most of these players play in the Americas, and they play in the best leagues in the Americas. Sao Paulo is quite a big club in Brazil. They're not performing too well right now in the league, but Christian Cueva is one of our best players. He's the number 10. He's the one who makes all the plays. He's quite a good dribbler. And the other two players I'd like to mention is Miguel Trauco, who also plays for Flamengo. Miguel Trauco is very technical. He's not the fastest player. Defensively, he's not the best. He's decent, but his passing, his vision is sublime. He's very technical. That's one thing that you have to watch out for. And the last player I want to mention is Yoshimar Yotun, who plays for Orlando City. He used to play for Mamo. Peru play a very short passing game. I guess I'll get on with that a little later. I'll talk about individualism right now, but Yotun is the one exception. He usually plays the long ball, and he usually looks for players in dangerous positions and gets the ball over them. So he's very versatile. He plays a left back and is a midfielder. Although I can guarantee against New Zealand he's going to play as a midfielder because that's who he's playing the most of the match or most of the World Cup qualifiers.
What is the atmosphere likely to be like at Estadio Nacional de Lima?
That really depends because against Colombia, the atmosphere wasn't too present. They sang the anthem really loud and clear, but the problem was that most of the people that got the tickets, they were people that were able to get it because they were Peruvian, and they weren't. Not a lot of them were like real football fans. That's not to disrespect anything, but I've noticed a lot more of an atmosphere at club finals here in Peru than the national team, and that's because the club finals is something that they're usually Lima teams, so usually most football fans go, but in the national team, most people go because the national team is like it's a family time. Most people get together in families to watch it. Everyone loves the national team here, even the non-football fans. So usually it can be pretty quiet. That's not to underestimate it at all, but it can be quiet in the Estadio Nacional, and I expect a full stadium. I just don't expect an extremely loud crowd. That's the only thing I could say. That I hope they surprise me.
And how many Peruvian football fans are likely to travel to New Zealand, travel to Westpac Stadium in Wellington?
That is a question that is a bit hard to answer. It depends on the ones who can afford it, that is. So I'm guessing that a few Peruvians from Sydney might travel as well. I'm aware that Sydney is not the closest city, or it is the closest city to New Zealand, but it isn't the closest place in the world. I'm aware it's 3 hours away. And there's not that many Peruvians in New Zealand. But there's a good number of them in Wellington. When I saw the survey, Auckland and Wellington have a few fans. I'm guessing they're the ones who are going to be traveling, and as well as a few journalists, a few people who are going to New Zealand. I have noticed that a few New Zealanders do want to come over here to Lima, and I think that's more likely than seeing Peruvians from actually living in Lima that actually go over to Wellington.
In regards to New Zealand's chances, with the best case scenario for us is to have Peru arrive in Wellington. It can be a very cold, very windy city on certain nights. Would that play into the hands of the New Zealand team?
It could because Lima, believe it or not, is actually a very cold city as well. Although New Zealand, I believe, is colder because it's more to the south. It actually snows at New Zealand, if I'm correct in what I'm saying.
Correct.
But Peru at night, it is a very, very cold city. It's very windy, and it usually goes down to 13, 14 degrees here, but it feels like 5. And I say this because I used to live in Canada, which is a very, very cold country, of course. And it does feel very, very cold when it gets here at night. So it's a hard say, but you also have to consider that a lot of these players don't play in Peru anymore. There's only a few of them that are in the national team that actually play, and most of them are subs anyways. You see a lot of them playing in Brazil, Mexico, nations that aren't really that cold or known for being cold. I guess Peru isn't known for being cold either, but I've been in Brazil, and it's nowhere near as cold as it is here. So that's one thing that could help New Zealand perhaps, as well as the wind, because it's cold, but it's not the windiest city here.
Who is Peru's biggest rival in football?
Chile, and we've knocked them out. So after years of Chile knocking us out, 1973, 1997, and now we've knocked them out. So it's really nice to have that moment of us, even if we didn't do it directly.
And your greatest moment as a footballing country? Is there a particular time, a particular year, a particular event?
That's a hard question to answer. There's a lot of good moments Peru have had. Peru's best ever team was in the 1970s. They had a lot of great players. Hector Chumpitas, who is one of the greatest South American defenders of all time. Teofilo Cubillas, who is on many lists of one of the 100 best footballers of all time. And there's a lot of other players, but those are the two main ones that some people might recognize outside of Peru, because the rest are probably only recognized nowadays in the countries they played in, or just Peru, of course. So, but the best moment is a hard one. Perhaps qualifying for another World Cup in 1982. I would say, in my opinion, the best moment was when the Copa America in 1975. They did the impossible. They beat Brazil away from home. It was a very good team, and Brazil was playing with the B team there. But Peru is one of the few teams to have ever beat Brazil in their own home. If I'm correct, Argentina, Uruguay, Germany, the Netherlands, and Peru is another one. I believe those are the only 5 teams who have actually beaten Brazil in their own home. So that was winning the Copa America is a feat for Peru, especially if you look how the last 40 years have gone, where Peru haven't qualified since 1982, and they've been a bit irrelevant in the footballing scene. They've had some good players, of course, but hard one to pick because there's been a lot of good moments. But I think the best moment was winning that trophy, because trophies are the most important part of winning football.
We appreciate your time this morning on the program.